Unsubscribe from me right now if you don't want the real fools. Let's go.
Black people ain't never gonna get their act together. Number one, it presupposes that there is no act to get together because blacks don't have no act because they're savages. And therefore there is nothing to fear dealing with them people. So we can do whatever, it's not gonna come back to us. That's the idea, that's the mentality that a lot of these people have. So when they run up on us and they do things, and I'm talking about people that are racist, the people that participate in violent acts against black people thinking that, oh, well, they have no recourse. Naturally, because when they look at the continent, and they don't know anything about the continent, let's just be clear about that. But when they look at the continent, they see no organization, they see no order, they see nothing. We can continue to do whatever we want. And there's never going to be any redress, there's not going to be any counteraction, there's not going to be a response for this, no consequence for this. So we can violate these people here in great number. We can run up on them, even on a gang level. Even on a gang level, when you're talking gangs, we can try to make a move on these people, because even then, these people, these blacks, they don't have any political cover. They don't have access to the mainstream like that. They don't have coppers on the payroll like that. They don't have politicians in their pocket like that, judges in their pockets like that. They ain't really moving like that, and they're the first to get stopped. They're the first to get searched. They're the first to get dealt with. So there's this idea of, impunity. We can just run up on these blackies and we can do whatever we want to them. We can do anything that we want to them. And that is something that wouldn't happen if Africa got its act together. But it then again presupposes that Africa does have an act to get together. West Africa, going back 4,000 years, has an order and has a way of being, has a way of life. It has a constitution, a spiritual constitution, a charter, and it has a way of being. It has its clans, it has its Sanankuya, it has its cousinage, it has its proximity to other people, its tribes, its nations, its empires, and the way that they deal with one another, and the systems of honor amongst peoples, between classes, that pairs people, that twins them together in endeavors to do with trade, as in endeavors to do with conquest. Now you can see the negative aspects of this when you look at the ethnicities and the ethnic groups and all of these people that historically had empires in West Africa, what they've devolved to. Now many of them are involved in a lot of international criminal behavior, gang behavior, so on and so forth. And it's just like, what about that bureaucracy that you were noted for? West Africa, even in speech, is known for bureaucracy, right? Just when you begin to speak in West Africa, there's a way to address people. There's a way to speak. You don't just delve into the conversation. Formally, this comes from the diplomacy needed to maneuver around an empire. These things, they've trickled down, but not in any concise way, so as to give the peoples of West Africa some kind of cohesiveness. If anything, these things are actually turned inward and used against each other, causing the West Africans to fight each other. Because, yes, we know that on a national level, if they would go back to the imperial period, to the period of empire, to the period of confederation, then they would be strong on the political scene. They know this. This goes without saying. But even at the immigrant, migrant level, in the countries where we settle, who could ever mess with us? Nobody. I mean, already, as it comes to it, the blacks, wherever they always are the leaders when it comes to the deletion of people. That's pretty much the only crime where they're actually, per capita, the leaders of. Every other crime, it seems, other people tend to do, but the black guys, they're always going to get blamed for it because they're the poster boys for criminality. But what I'm saying is that they already have a propensity for the violence. And that violence, if marshaled properly, and then given to the order that comes from those millennia of West African organization, would have been able to give the West Africans an allure deeper than even the mafia in its prime. And that alone, just on a street level, would have given people a conception of black men that was that of respect. You understand? Like the same way we look at Sicily. We think Sicily is this deep, ancient place, when really, when you look at it, Italy's a failed state, to all intents and purposes. But we just assume that it's not. And then we say, okay, well, let's just conflate that with the Roman Empire. Let's conflate that with the different city-states going on in the medieval era. Let's conflate that with the different colonies pre-Roman Empire, pre-Rome, the Phoenicians and the Greeks. And let's just say that Sicily has that kind of, luster, that kind of prestige. But the reality is most of that goodwill comes from the mafia, right? We just look at them and we think, let's look at the Italians and particularly the Sicilians through the lens of what we see as being the mafia. And we want to give them that benefit of the doubt, even though the truth is Italy isn't really much to them. It's just kind of a failed state. It's a failed country. We're looking for respect as West Africans, and we can't get none. People still make jokes. People just like us, the dashikis, the bubu, all of that, the akbada, all of them. People wear these clothes and they cosplay as West Africans. However, they don't respect West Africans. They might respect the history, those that know the history, but they don't respect West Africans. And the reason why is because we don't carry this level of organization into our everyday practice. And that's why people feel as if they can jump in and do whatever they want. And some people, to the extent that they actually know where the divisions lay, come in to try to exploit those divisions, religiously speaking, for instance. You see with the Muslims who try to manipulate the Muslims against the Christians in West Africa, or the Christians who try to manipulate the Christians against the Muslims in West Africa. It goes on. These types of things need to be verboten. They need to be anathema. And the West African needs to understand that, you have that intellectual property. There's intellectual property, but you also have societal property. You have ancestral property. You have cultural property. You have civilizational property. And civilizational isn't just confined to the cities and the bricks and the ruins and all of that we see in West Africa from thousands of years back. It also talks about the cohesion of the society and the societies that dwelt in those civilizations. That needs to be something that is brought back. These are our inheritance. You understand? And we need to trade off of that. We need to trade off of that. We need to be in a position to identify each other as West Africans and create that kind of omerta. But right now, as it is, we're stuck at the nation state level, and some people even more myopically at the tribal level, the ethnic group level. And this is why people, they don't fear us, and therefore there's no cause to look back on us, no cause to reconsider, to respect us. There's no cause to do that because they see that we can just sneak in, we can do whatever we want, we can come back out. And there's nothing. Big problem that people had when it came to dealing with the mafia was their organization and the idea that if you touch one, you touch them all. People feared that. You know that if you touch a black person, a West African person, nobody's really going to care. Maybe his cousins will come for you, that's it. But nobody from the other side of the West African subcontinent is going to come and do anything to you. To the extent that something actually might be done, perhaps you'll see a march or a protest and people will start crying and whining and whinging. And that's not even West Africans, they're just black people as a whole. Black people in the diaspora, they love to march, especially in the UK, especially in France, and especially in USA, right? Those are the three countries that they love to march the most. They just love protests. They stay thinking that protests are going to solve all their problems. But the reality is nobody really fears, nobody fears the consequence of messing with a West African. None. And it's crazy because we have such inspirations from which to draw, just at a mental level that could tighten us and make us less susceptible. Anyway, just a little thought. Wanted to say that. Like, share, subscribe. Peace.